The baby's cry shattered the silence of Courtroom 7B like a gunshot. Every head turned, every breath held, and Jin-Woo Kang, billionaire CEO of Kang Global Industries, felt his entire empire crack down the middle. "Your Honor, I'd like to introduce additional evidence." The voice cut through the chaos like ice. Jin-Woo looked up from his phone, barely interested. This divorce was a formality, a checkbox on his way to a cleaner life with Soo-min. Then he saw her. Kemi lifted the car seat onto the plaintiff's table with steady hands. The infant inside couldn't have been more than 3 months old. Dark hair that curled at the edges, his nose, his mother's exact jawline. Those eyes, even half-closed in infant confusion, were unmistakably Kang eyes. The room erupted. Cameras flashed despite the bailiff's protests. Soo-min's face went white beside him, her manicured nails suddenly digging into his arm hard enough to draw blood. His lawyer, the distinguished Mr. Han who'd never lost a case in 30 years, looked like he might vomit. Jin-Woo's brain performed calculations it didn't want to complete. 9 months back from today. 8 months back. 7 months back to that last cold night in their marriage bed before he'd moved into the guest house permanently, before Soo-min had become more than just his executive assistant. DNA results are enclosed in Exhibit F, Kemi continued, her voice steady as a surgeon's hand. She didn't look at him, didn't flinch. "My client would like to formally request full custody of Ayodele Jin-Woo Kang, born 3 months ago while Mr. Kang was busy planning his next wedding." The woman standing at the plaintiff's table wasn't supposed to exist anymore. The infant in her arms definitely wasn't supposed to exist. And Kemi Okafor, his wife who he'd buried under paperwork and indifference 6 months ago, looked directly at him with eyes that promised this was only the beginning. The judge's gavel hadn't even struck yet, but Jin-Woo already knew he'd lost everything that mattered. He just hadn't realized it mattered until this exact moment. "Mr. Han," Judge Kim's voice sliced through the noise, "does your client have any immediate response to this revelation?" Mr. Han stood slowly, his expensive suit suddenly looking 2 sizes too small. "Your Honor, we request an immediate recess to review this evidence." "I'm sure you do." Judge Kim's expression was carved from stone. "But first, Mr. Kang, please stand." Jin-Woo rose on legs that felt like water. 34 years old, billions in assets, holdings in 17 countries, and he couldn't stop staring at the tiny fist that had escaped from the blanket, waving at nothing, at everything at him. "Mr. Kang, were you aware that your wife was pregnant when you filed for divorce?" The courtroom held its breath. Soo-min's nails dug deeper. Mr. Han's face had gone grey. "No, Your Honor," his voice came out rougher than he intended. "I was not aware." It wasn't technically a lie. He hadn't known for certain. But that night 7 months ago flashed through his mind with brutal clarity now. Kemi standing in the doorway of his home office at 2 in the morning, her hand pressed to her stomach, her mouth opening to say something. And him, cold as winter, not even looking up from his laptop. "If you have something to say, schedule it through my assistant. I'm busy." She'd closed her mouth, closed the door, and he'd never asked. "Your Honor," Kemi's lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Attorney Cho, stepped forward. "We have documented evidence that Mrs. Kang attempted to inform Mr. Kang of her pregnancy on 3 separate occasions. Each time he refused to meet with her or return her calls. We have text messages, emails, and witness testimony." Jin-Woo's stomach dropped. "Furthermore," Attorney Cho continued, and her voice took on an edge that made Jin-Woo's blood run cold, "we have reason to believe that Mr. Kang's legal team may have been aware of the pregnancy before these divorce proceedings began. We are prepared to file for sanctions if—" "That's a lie," Mr. Han exploded. "Your Honor, this is a blatant attempt to—" "Enough," Judge Kim's gavel cracked like thunder. "Everyone in my chambers, now, except the media, you all stay exactly where you are." The baby Ayodele started crying harder. Kemi lifted him from the car seat with practiced ease, tucking him against her shoulder and swaying slightly. The movement was so natural, so clearly rehearsed 1,000 times, that Jin-Woo felt something twist in his chest. He'd missed 3 months, 3 entire months of his son's life. His son. The chambers were smaller than the courtroom, but somehow more suffocating. Judge Kim sat behind her desk like an avenging angel, her eyes moving from Jin-Woo to Kemi to the baby and back again. "Before we proceed," she said quietly, "I want to make something very clear. I don't care how much money is in this room. I don't care about your company's stock price or your family's reputation. What I care about is that child. Do we understand each other? Yes, Your Honor, Kemi said immediately. Jin-Woo managed a nod. Soo-min, who had somehow followed them in, opened her mouth, but Judge Kim's glare shut it instantly. Good. Now, Mrs. Kang, why didn't you file a motion to inform the court of your pregnancy during the initial proceedings? Kemi adjusted Ayodele against her shoulder. The baby had quieted, his tiny hand fisting in her blazer. Because I was afraid, Your Honor. Afraid of what? Afraid of what the Kang family would do to take him from me. Kemi's voice didn't shake, but Jin-Woo saw her knuckles go white where she held their son. I'm a black woman married into one of Korea's most powerful families. A family that made it very clear I was never good enough, never would be good enough. When I discovered I was pregnant, I knew that if I told anyone, they would find a way to use my baby as leverage. Or worse. That's absurd, Soo-min hissed. The Kang family would never. Ms. Park, Judge Kim said icily, you are not a party to these proceedings. You will be silent or you will be removed. Jin-Woo's mind was racing. His mother, his sister, the board of directors. Kemi wasn't wrong. If they'd known about a Kang heir, especially one that could complicate the divorce they would have, what would they have done? He didn't want to know the answer. Your Honor, Attorney Cho interjected, we'd like to request an immediate DNA test to confirm paternity, temporary full custody to Mrs. Kang pending results, and supervised visitation only for Mr. Kang. Supervised, Mr. Han sputtered. That's excessive. My client has every right. Your client, Attorney Cho said coldly, served divorce papers to a pregnant woman and then ignored every attempt she made to inform him of his child's existence. Your client moved his mistress into the family home before the ink was dry on the separation agreement. Your client has not met his son, does not know his son's name, and by his own admission, didn't even know his son existed. Supervised visitation is generous. The baby made a small sound, something between a coo and a whimper. Kemi immediately adjusted him, whispering something too soft for Jin-Woo to hear, something in Igbo, he thought, her mother tongue that she'd stopped speaking around him years ago because his mother said it sounded aggressive. I want to hold him. The words left Jin-Woo's mouth before his brain caught up. Everyone turned to stare at him. I want to hold my son. His voice was stronger now, more certain. Please. Kemi's eyes met his for the first time since the courtroom. They were the same warm brown he'd fallen in love with 6 years ago, before the marriage became a transaction, before Soo-min, before everything went cold. But now they held something else, something hard and protective and absolutely unyielding. No, she said simply. Kemi's. You don't get to call me that anymore. You lost that right when you handed me divorce papers and walked away. Her voice was soft, but it cut deeper than any scream could have. You want to hold him, prove you deserve to, prove you're not going to treat him the way you treated me. That's not fair. Fair, Kemi's laugh was bitter. You want to talk about fair? I spent 3 months living in a one-room apartment in Incheon, working online translation jobs at 3 a.m, because that's when the American clients needed me, taking buses because I couldn't afford taxis, giving birth alone because I was terrified that if I called anyone from our old life, your family would find out. I chose between buying food and buying diapers. I haven't slept more than 2 hours at a time since Ayodele was born, so please, Jin-Woo, tell me more about what's fair. The silence that followed was deafening. Judge Kim cleared her throat. DNA test, tomorrow morning 8 a.m. Until we have results, Mrs. Kang retains full custody. Mr. Kang, you will not attempt to contact Mrs. Kang or the child outside of official legal channels. Am I understood? Your Honor, Jin-Woo heard himself say. What's his full name? Kemi looked at him for a long moment. Ayodele, it means joy has come home in Yoruba. I gave him your name as his middle name because despite everything, despite how much you hurt me, he deserves to know where he comes from. Both sides of where he comes from. Something in Jin-Woo's chest cracked open. Ayodele, he repeated quietly, joy has come home. Yes, though he's brought me more joy than you ever did. The words hung in the air like smoke. Judge Kim stood. We're done here. Get that DNA test done. And someone get that baby out of my chambers before I hold everyone in contempt for bringing an infant into this mess. As they filed out, Jin-Woo caught Mr. Han's arm. Did you know? Sir, did you know she was pregnant when we filed? Mr. Han's pause was answer enough. Who else knew? Sir, I don't think. Who else knew? Mr. Han's face went pale. Your mother, your sister, 3 members of the board, we were trying to protect the company, sir. If news of a pregnancy came out during divorce proceedings, especially with Ms. Park already in the picture, the stock price would have. Jin-Woo's fist connected with the wall before he could stop himself. Pain exploded across his knuckles. Soo-min gasped. Mr. Han stepped back. Get out, Jin-Woo said quietly. Sir, get out of my sight before I do something we'll both regret. Mr. Han fled. Soo-min touched his shoulder. Jin-Woo, you have to understand they were just trying to. He shrugged her off. Don't. Through the small window in the chamber door, he could see Kemi in the hallway, cradling Ayodele against her chest. She was talking to Attorney Cho, her head bent close to the lawyer's, her hand rubbing small circles on their son's back. Their son. He had a son. And everyone had known except him. No, that wasn't true. He'd known something. That night when Kemi had stood in his doorway with her hand on her stomach, he'd known. He'd just chosen not to care. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother, we need to talk, family dinner, tonight mandatory. Jin-Woo stared at the message, then at Kemi disappearing down the hallway with Ayodele, then at his bleeding knuckles. Sir, a nervous junior associate approached. The media is asking for a statement. What should we tell them? Jin-Woo watched Kemi push through the courthouse doors into the afternoon sunlight, their son's face turned toward her neck, completely trusting, completely safe. What should they tell the media? The truth was, Jin-Woo didn't have the first clue what to say. He didn't know how to be a father, didn't know how to fix what he'd broken, didn't even know if Kemi would ever let him try. But standing there, watching his family walk away from him, Jin-Woo Kang made a decision that would change everything. Tell them no comment, he said quietly. Tell them I have nothing to say until I meet my son. The associate scurried away. Soo-min was still talking, saying something about damage control and PR strategies, but Jin-Woo wasn't listening anymore. He was too busy wondering how much a man could lose before he figured out what mattered. And whether he'd figured it out too late. The Kang family estate sprawled across 3 acres in Gangnam, all traditional architecture and modern security systems. Jin-Woo hadn't been back since he'd moved out 6 months ago, preferring his penthouse downtown where Soo-min could visit without his mother's disapproving glares. Now, walking through the front gates felt like entering enemy territory. His mother, Chairwoman Kang Mi-suk, sat in the main receiving room like a queen holding court. His sister, Kang Hae-jin, perched beside her with a tablet and a smile that promised blood. 3 board members occupied the remaining chairs, including Director Choi, his father's oldest friend and the company's CFO. Sit, his mother commanded in Korean. Jin-Woo remained standing. You knew. Of course we knew. His mother's voice was ice. Do you think we'd let some girl trap you with a pregnancy without protection in place? Some girl, Jin-Woo's voice rose. She's my wife. She was my wife when you were plotting behind my back. She was a mistake, Hae-jin interjected smoothly. A beautiful, exotic mistake that you made when you were trying to prove something to father. We all knew it wouldn't last. Father's been dead for 3 years. And yet you're still trying to prove you're not him. Hae-jin's smile sharpened. How's that working out? Director Choi cleared his throat. Jin-Woo, please sit. We need to discuss strategy. Strategy for what? For containing this disaster. His mother stood, moving toward the window with the grace of a woman who'd spent 60 years commanding rooms. That scene in court today will be on every news channel by tonight. Social media is already exploding. Billionaire abandons black wife and secret baby. Do you know what that does to our stock price? To our partnerships in Africa? To everything we've built? Everything you've built, Jin-Woo corrected. I didn't build this on lies. No, you built it on hard work and sacrifice, which is why we're not going to let one woman destroy it. His mother turned to face him. The board has already drafted a settlement offer. 5 million won, a house anywhere she wants outside of Seoul, and a monthly allowance for the child. In exchange, she signs an NDA, gives up all custody claims and disappears. The room tilted. You want me to buy my son? We want you to protect your legacy, Director Choi said carefully. Jin-Woo, your father's will. Don't, Jin-Woo's voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. Don't you dare bring father into this. But Director Choi continued anyway, his voice heavy with something that sounded almost like regret. Your father added a codicil to the family trust 5 years ago. We've kept it sealed, hoping it would never be relevant, but given today's events. He slid a folder across the table. Jin-Woo didn't want to touch it, didn't want to know what fresh nightmare waited inside, but his hand moved anyway, opening the folder, scanning the legal language until certain phrases jumped out like knives. Any male heir of Kang Global Industries, who fathers a child out of wedlock, or willfully abandons their legitimate offspring, shall forfeit all rights, titles and holdings. Company assets to be liquidated and distributed to approved charitable organizations. Exception clause available only if said heir demonstrates sustained paternal commitment as determined by independent psychological evaluation. This isn't real, Jin-Woo's voice sounded far away. Father wouldn't. Your father, his mother said coldly, watched his own brother abandon 3 children across 2 continents and destroy the family name for a generation. He swore no son of his would do the same. So yes, Jin-Woo, it's real, and if you don't handle this situation carefully, you'll lose everything. I already lost everything. Jin-Woo dropped the folder. I lost my wife, I lost 3 months of my son's life, what else is there? Hae-jin laughed, sharp and cruel. Oh, little brother, you really don't see it, do you? If that codicil activates, if you can't prove sustained paternal commitment within 6 months, the company doesn't just pass to someone else. It dissolves. 13,000 employees lose their jobs. Our suppliers lose their biggest client. The economic impact across Seoul alone would be. Enough, Director Choi's voice cut through Hae-jin's gleeful recitation. Jin-Woo, we're not here to threaten you. We're here to help you navigate this. Help me, Jin-Woo looked at each of them in turn. You hid my son from me, you conspired to push his mother into poverty, and now you want to help. We did what we had to do to protect the company, his mother said. What you should have done from the beginning instead of marrying that woman in the first place. Something in Jin-Woo snapped. Her name, he said quietly, dangerously, is Kemi Okafor, and she is the mother of my child. The only person in this entire situation who did the right thing was her. She tried to tell me about Ayodele 3 times. 3 times I ignored her. 3 times I chose my pride and my comfort over my family. So don't you dare sit here and blame her for my failures. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Hae-jin started clapping, slow and mocking. Wonderful speech, very moving. Now are you going to sign the settlement offer or not? Jin-Woo looked at his sister, really looked at her and saw a stranger. When had she become this? When had any of them become this? No, he said simply. His mother's face hardened. Jin-Woo, I'm not paying Kemi to disappear. I'm not buying my way out of being a father. And I'm not letting any of you anywhere near my son until you can prove you see him as a human being and not a PR problem. He turned toward the door. If you walk out now, his mother said, her voice like cut glass, don't bother coming back. You'll have chosen that woman and her child over your family, over your father's legacy, over everything that matters. Jin-Woo stopped, his hand on the door frame. You're right, I am choosing them because they're my family too, and maybe they're the family that actually matters. He left before anyone could respond, his mother's outraged shout following him down the hallway. His phone buzzed before he reached his car. Unknown number, he almost didn't answer. Mr. Kang, a man's voice, official and clipped. This is Agent Park Yi-sung with the Financial Supervisory Service. We need to schedule a meeting regarding your company's international transactions from 2023 to present, specifically your West African operations. Jin-Woo's blood went cold. What about them? We've received documentation suggesting financial irregularities, money laundering, tax evasion, fraudulent transfer pricing. We'd like to discuss your knowledge of these activities and your wife's role in. My wife, Jin-Woo interrupted. What does Kemi have to do with this? Agent Park's pause was loaded. Mrs. Kang was your company's primary translator for all West African contracts. She had access to every document, every transaction, every communication. If there were irregularities, she would have seen them. The world narrowed to a pinpoint. Are you accusing my wife of fraud? We're not accusing anyone yet, Mr. Kang, but we are very interested in speaking with her. Unfortunately, she seems to have disappeared from her registered address. You wouldn't happen to know where we could find her, would you? Jin-Woo's mind raced. The apartment in Incheon, Kemi living in hiding, not just hiding from his family but from… Mr. Kang, are you still there? I don't know where she is, Jin-Woo said carefully. We're separated, the divorce proceedings. Yes, we saw the news, quite the scene in court today. Congratulations on your son, by the way. Agent Park's voice carried a sharp edge. We'll be in touch, and Mr. Kang, if you do hear from your wife, you have a legal obligation to inform us. Obstruction of a federal investigation carries serious penalties. The line went dead. Jin-Woo sat in his car, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard his injured knuckles screamed. The pieces were clicking together in ways he didn't want to acknowledge. Kemi had translated every major deal for the West African expansion. She'd had access to contracts, financial documents, correspondence with government officials. She'd seen everything. And if there were irregularities, if someone in his company had been cooking the books, moving money illegally, bribing officials, Kemi would have known. Had she reported them, was that why she'd gone into hiding, not just from his family but from whoever was responsible for the fraud. His phone buzzed again, this time a text from an unknown number. She's the whistleblower. Your wife is the reason FSS is investigating. Thought you should know before you do something stupid like try to reconcile. A friend. Jin-Woo stared at the message until his vision blurred. Kemi had turned him in, turned in his company. Everything he'd built, everything his father had built, was about to come crashing down because his wife… No, wait. He forced himself to think past the rage and betrayal flooding his system. Kemi wouldn't have reported fraud unless there was asterisk fraud. She was meticulous, careful, honest to a fault. If she'd gone to the authorities, it was because something was genuinely wrong. Which meant someone in his company was dirty, someone high up with access to the international operations, someone who knew Kemi would see the evidence and had probably tried to. His phone rang. Sumin. Jin-Woo, where are you? We need to do damage control. The media is… Who handles our West African contracts? He interrupted. What? Who oversees the financial side of our West African operations? Who has signature authority on those accounts? Sumin's pause was too long. Why are you asking about this now? Answer the question. Director Choi handles most of it. I help with some of the execution and documentation. Your sister reviews the quarterly reports. Why? Director Choi, his father's oldest friend, the man who'd sat in that room tonight talking about protecting the company. The man who would lose everything if the fraud was exposed. Jin-Woo, Sumin's voice sharpened. What's going on? I have to go. He hung up and immediately dialed Attorney Cho, Kemi's lawyer. Mr. Kang, she answered on the second ring. I'm surprised to hear from you. I need to speak with Kemi. It's urgent. Absolutely not. Any communication goes through. Someone's going to hurt her. The words tumbled out. The FSS just called me. They're looking for her. They think she's involved in financial fraud at my company, but she's not. She's the one who reported it, and whoever's actually responsible knows she has evidence and… Mr. Kang, Attorney Cho's voice cut through his panic like a blade. Slow down. What exactly did the FSS tell you? Jin-Woo explained the call, the accusations, the implications. As he talked, he heard Attorney Cho's breathing change, heard papers rustling, heard what sounded like a door closing. Mr. Kang, I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to answer honestly. Do you believe your wife committed fraud? No, never. Kemi's the most honest person I've ever met. Do you believe someone in your company is trying to frame her for their crimes? Jin-Woo thought about Director Choi's face tonight, about the settlement offer designed to make Kemi disappear, about the codicil that would destroy the company if he claimed his son. Yes, he said quietly, I think they've been planning this for months. Attorney Cho was quiet for a long moment. The DNA test is tomorrow at 8 a.m. Seoul Medical Center, 3rd floor. Be there on time, Mr. Kang. And come alone. No family, no lawyers, no assistants. If you're serious about protecting your son and his mother, you need to prove we can trust you. I will, I swear. Good, because if Kemi is in the danger you think she's in, tomorrow might be our only chance to get her and Ayodele somewhere safe before the people you work with realize what's happening. The line went dead. Jin-Woo sat in the parking lot of his family estate, watching lights glow in the windows where his mother and sister and director Choi were probably already planning their next move. His father's voice echoed in his memory, "Family first, Jin-Woo, always family first." But which family? The one that shared his blood and wanted to buy his son like a commodity, or the one he'd created and abandoned, the one that was now in danger because of his company's sins? Jin-Woo started the car and drove toward his penthouse, his mind already calculating how much cash he could access, which assets were in his name alone, how quickly he could move money if Kemi and Ayodele needed to run. Because if Attorney Cho was right, if tomorrow was their only chance, then Jin-Woo was going to make damn sure he didn't waste it. Even if it meant burning his entire life to the ground. His phone buzzed one more time, another unknown number, another text. "Stay away from her or the baby disappears. You have 24 hours to make the right choice. Choose wisely." Jin-Woo's hands shook as he screenshotted the message. 24 hours. The DNA test was in 16. And somewhere in Seoul, Kemi was holding their son, completely unaware that the people Jin-Woo worked with were willing to hurt a 3-month-old baby to protect their secrets. He pressed harder on the accelerator, the city lights blurring past his windows. Tomorrow, everything would be decided tomorrow. He just hoped they'd all survive it. Seoul Medical Center at 7:45 in the morning was a maze of sterile hallways and anxious people. Jin-Woo arrived early as instructed, with nothing but his wallet and his phone. No security detail, no Mr. Han, no Soo-min, who'd called 17 times last night until he'd finally turned off his phone. He'd spent the entire night awake, reviewing every contract Kemi had translated, every deal she touched. The irregularities jumped out now that he knew what to look for: payments to shell companies, transfer pricing that made no economic sense, bribes disguised as consulting fees. And Kemi had seen it all, had probably flagged it, reported it to Director Choi like the diligent employee she was, and Director Choi had buried it. Reassured her, maybe even threatened her. No wonder she'd run. "Mr. Kang," a nurse appeared with a clipboard. "This way, please." The testing room was small and cold. Jin-Woo sat in the plastic chair and waited, his leg bouncing with nervous energy he couldn't control. The door opened. Kemi entered first, Ayodele strapped to her chest in one of those fabric carriers. The baby was awake, his dark eyes curious and unfocused, his tiny fist shoved in his mouth. He wore a yellow onesie with elephants on it. Attorney Cho followed them in, her expression unreadable. "Mrs. Kang," the nurse said warmly, "and this must be Ayodele. What a beautiful baby." "Thank you," Kemi's voice was quiet, tired. She hadn't looked at Jin-Woo yet. The DNA test took less than 5 minutes. A quick swab of Jin-Woo's cheek, then Ayodele's, the baby fussing but not crying. Kemi murmured to him in Igbo, that same soothing tone from yesterday, and Ayodele settled immediately. "Results will be available in 72 hours, the nurse said cheerfully. "Though between you and me, that baby looks exactly like you, Mr. Kang." She left, closing the door behind her. The silence stretched like taffy. "Kemi," Jin-Woo started. "Don't," she finally looked at him, and he saw the exhaustion carved into every line of her face. "Whatever you're about to say, just don't. Someone threatened our son last night." That got her attention. Attorney Cho's too. Jin-Woo pulled out his phone, showed them the screenshot of the text, watched Kemi's face go from tired to terrified in the space of a heartbeat. "Who sent this?" Attorney Cho demanded. "I don't know, but the FSS called me yesterday. They know you're the whistleblower, Kemi. They know you reported the fraud." Kemi's hand moved instinctively to cradle Ayodele's head. "How did you?" "It doesn't matter. What matters is that whoever's responsible for the fraud knows you have evidence and they're scared enough to threaten a baby." Jin-Woo leaned forward, keeping his voice low and urgent. "I think it's Director Choi, maybe my sister, maybe both of them, but someone in my company is dirty and they want you silent." "Why are you telling me this?" Kemi's voice shook. "Why would you help me? I reported your company. I'm the reason you're about to lose everything." "You reported criminals who were using my company to commit crimes. There's a difference." Jin-Woo held her gaze. "And you're not the reason I'm losing everything. I lost everything when I chose to be the kind of man who would ignore his pregnant wife. That's on me. But this, keeping you and Ayodele safe, that's the one thing I can actually do right." Ayodele made a small noise, something between a coo and a gurgle. Kemi adjusted him automatically, her eyes never leaving Jin-Woo's face. I don't trust you, she said finally. I know. I don't believe you've changed. I know that too. And I will never, ever let you hurt Ayodele the way you hurt me. I understand, Jin-Woo swallowed hard, but right now I'm the only one with the resources to keep you both safe. My family wants to pay you to disappear. The FSS wants to question you about fraud you didn't commit. And someone in my company just threatened to make our son disappear. So please, Kemi, let me help. Attorney Cho cleared her throat. Mr. Kang, if what you're saying is true, we need to involve the police. The police won't move fast enough. Whoever sent that text gave me 24 hours. We have less than 16 left. Jin-Woo turned back to Kemi. I have a place, a house in Jeju Island under my personal name, not the company's. No one knows about it except me. You and Ayodele can stay there while I figure out who's behind this and turn them over to the authorities. I'll hire private security, get you anything you need. And then what? Kemi interrupted. I hide on an island while you play detective, while your family and your company hunt for me. That's not a life, Jin-Woo. That's not a life for me or for our son. Then what do you want me to do? Jin-Woo heard the desperation in his own voice and didn't care. Tell me what you want and I'll do it. Kemi looked down at Ayodele, who had managed to work his entire fist into his mouth and seemed very pleased with himself. She touched his cheek with one finger, so gentle it made Jin-Woo's chest ache. I want you to be a father, she said quietly. Not a savior, not a hero, just a father who shows up and does the work and doesn't run when things get hard. Can you do that? I don't know, Jin-Woo admitted. I don't know the first thing about being a father, but I want to learn if you'll let me. Kemi was quiet for so long Jin-Woo thought she might not answer at all. Then she sighed, deep and weary. Okay, she said, okay, but I have conditions. Anything. You end things with Sumin, completely. Not it's complicated or we're taking a break. You end it today and I want proof. Jin-Woo nodded. Done, what else? You attend parenting classes. Real ones, not some 2-hour seminar for executives. And therapy. Individual therapy with someone who specializes in emotional negligence and relationship repair. Okays. And you respect my decisions about Ayodele. I've been his mother for 3 months. I know what he needs when he needs it, how he needs it. You don't get to swoop in and override me just because you have money and power. Understood? Understood. Attorney Cho was taking notes, her pen flying across her legal pad. I'm documenting all of this. Mrs. Kang, I strongly advise you to let me draft a formal custody agreement before. No, Kemi shook her head. No more lawyers, no more courts, no more fighting. Either Jin-Woo is serious about being a father or he's not, and we'll figure it out as we go. Kemi, Attorney Cho protested, that's extremely risky, without a formal agreement. I've spent 3 months alone with my baby because I was too scared to trust anyone. I'm tired of being scared. Kemi finally looked directly at Jin-Woo, and he saw something in her eyes he hadn't seen in years, not forgiveness, not trust, but maybe, possibly, the smallest opening of hope. I'm willing to let you try. But Jin-Woo, if you hurt him, if you disappear or get bored or decide fatherhood is too hard, I will take Ayodele so far away you'll never find us. And no amount of money or power will bring us back. Are we clear? Crystal clear. Good, Kemi stood, adjusting Ayodele in his carrier. Now get us out of here before whoever sent that text decides to show up. They took the service elevator down to the parking garage, Attorney Cho flanking one side and Jin-Woo the other. His car was parked in the far corner, a black sedan that didn't scream wealth but was armored enough to stop bullets. Kemi paused when she saw it. Is that really necessary? After last night, yes. They drove in tense silence through Seoul's morning traffic. Jin-Woo kept checking the mirrors, looking for tails for anything suspicious. His phone buzzed constantly, his mother, Hai-jin, Soo-min, board members, but he ignored every call. Where are we going? Kemi finally asked. Somewhere safe, somewhere we can talk. Jin-Woo merged onto the expressway heading south, and somewhere I can make some calls without worrying about who's listening. Ayodele started fussing in the backseat. Kemi immediately twisted around, making soothing noises, checking his diaper, offering a pacifier. The baby rejected the pacifier and ramped up to a full cry. He's hungry, Kemi said. We need to stop. We're 20 minutes from. Jin-Woo, he's 3 months old. When he's hungry, he needs to eat now. Pull over. Jin-Woo took the next exit, finding a rest stop with a family area. Inside, Kemi settled into a private nursing room, while Jin-Woo stood guard outside like some kind of deranged sentinel, his hand in his pocket wrapped around his phone, ready to call for help at the first sign of trouble. Attorney Cho appeared with 3 coffees. You look like you're about to pass out. I haven't slept. I noticed. She handed him a cup. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Kemi needed someone to choose her for once, to actually show up. I should have shown up 3 months ago, 6 months ago. I should have shown up when it mattered. You're showing up now, that counts for something. Attorney Cho sipped her coffee. Though I have to ask, what's your actual plan here? Because hiding them on Jeju Island only works if you can actually identify and stop whoever's threatening them. Otherwise, you're just delaying the inevitable. Jin-Woo had been thinking about this all night. I'm going to talk to my father's lawyer, the one who drafted the codicil. If Director Choi has been embezzling or committing fraud, there has to be evidence in the company's real books, not the ones he's been showing the board. And if I can prove he's dirty, then the FSS investigation shifts to him, not Kemi, Attorney Cho finished. But Jin-Woo, if you're right about Director Choi, he's not going to just let you waltz into the company and start digging through financials. He'll know something's wrong the second you show interest. Then I'll have to be subtle. You subtle, Attorney Cho raised an eyebrow. The man who punched a wall in court yesterday. Despite everything, Jin-Woo almost smiled. I can be subtle when necessary. The nursing room door opened. Kemi emerged with Ayodele, who looked milk-drunk and content, his little head lolling against her shoulder. He's asleep, she whispered. We can go. They made it to Jin-Woo's safe house, a modest 2-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood 40 minutes outside Seoul, without incident. It wasn't fancy, just a place Jin-Woo had bought years ago when he'd needed somewhere to think, somewhere away from the family and the company and the expectations. Kemi looked around the space with tired eyes. How long have you had this place? 5 years. I bought it after my father died. I needed, I don't know, a space that was just mine. You never told me about it. I never told anyone. Jin-Woo set down the bag he'd grabbed from the car. There's formula in the kitchen if you need it, diapers in the bathroom closet. I stocked everything yesterday after Attorney Cho called. Kemi's expression shifted, something complicated passing across her face. You stocked diapers. And wipes, and this thing called Aquaphor that the internet said was important for diaper rash. And bottles, even though I don't know if you're breastfeeding exclusively or… He stopped, realizing he was rambling. I googled what 3-month-olds need. I probably got stuff wrong. For the first time since the courtroom, Kemi's expression softened, just a fraction but enough that Jin-Woo saw it. You googled what 3-month-olds need, she repeated quietly. I told you I don't know how to be a father, but I'm trying to learn. Ayodele chose that moment to spit up on Kemi's shoulder. She sighed, grabbed a burp cloth from the diaper bag, and cleaned it up with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. That happens a lot, she said. He eats too fast and then spits up half of it. Welcome to parenthood. Jin-Woo watched her move around the kitchen, one-handed because Ayodele was still sleeping against her shoulder, finding a glass for water, checking the formula he'd bought to make sure it was the right brand. She looked exhausted and beautiful, and so completely comfortable in her role as a mother that Jin-Woo felt something crack inside his chest. He'd missed this, all of this, the late-night feedings and the spit-up and the way Kemi's whole face changed when she looked at their son. He'd thrown it away for what? For Soo-min, who sent him 12 texts last night asking about the company's PR strategy. For his career, which was built on fraud he'd been too blind to see. For his family, who'd hidden his son from him and thought they could buy their way out of consequences. Jin-Woo, Kemi's voice pulled him back. You okay? No, he said honestly, I'm really not. She studied him for a long moment. Good, you shouldn't be okay, none of this is okay. I need to make a call, to end things with Soo-min. Do you want to be there when I do it? Kemi considered this. Yes, I think I do. Jin-Woo pulled out his phone and dialed. Soo-min answered on the first ring. Finally, Jin-Woo, where have you been? Your mother is losing her mind, the board wants an emergency meeting and the media is. We're done, Soo-min. Silence. What? We're done, over, whatever we had, it's finished. Don't call me, don't come to my apartment, don't contact me at all, it's over. You can't be serious, Soo-min's voice rose. Jin-Woo, think about what you're doing. That woman, that baby, they're destroying your life, your family, your company, everything you've worked for. They're not destroying anything, they're showing me what actually matters, and it's not you. This is about the sex, isn't it? I knew I should have. This is about the fact that you knew. You knew about my son, you knew about the fraud, and you said nothing. You're complicit in all of it. Another pause, longer this time. When Soo-min spoke again, her voice had changed. Gone was the warm, seductive tone. In its place was something cold and calculating. You're making a huge mistake, Jin-Woo. Walking away from me, from your family, from the company. Do you have any idea what you're risking? I'm starting to. Then let me spell it out for you. Director Choi isn't the only one involved in the West African operations. Your sister signed off on half those contracts. Your mother knew about the irregularities and buried them. And me, I documented everything. Every bribe, every fake invoice, every shell company. I have evidence that could destroy your entire family. Jin-Woo's blood went cold. Are you threatening me? I'm giving you a choice. Come back, marry me like you planned. Make your little wife and her baby disappear, and I'll make sure the FSS investigation goes away. We'll blame everything on Director Choi, throw him under the bus and move on. Or refuse and I'll hand everything over to the authorities. Your mother goes to prison. Your sister goes to prison. And you lose the company, your reputation, and any chance of custody of that baby you suddenly care so much about. Kemi had gone very still, her face pale. You're lying, Jin-Woo said, but his voice shook. Am I? Test me, walk away, Jin-Woo, see what happens. Soo-min's laugh was bitter. You have until tonight to decide, choose wisely. She hung up. Jin-Woo stared at his phone, his mind reeling. Soo-min had evidence, real evidence that could implicate his entire family, and she was willing to use it to force him back, to force him to abandon Kemi and Ayodele. Jin-Woo, Kemi said quietly, look at me. He did. You heard all of that. She nodded, I heard. I don't know what to do. If I refuse her, my mother and sister go to prison. If I go back to her, I lose you and Ayodele. And if I do nothing, we all lose. Kemi shifted Ayodele to her other shoulder, her movements careful and deliberate. When she spoke, her voice was steady. You asked me earlier what I wanted from you. I told you I wanted you to be a father, someone who shows up and does the work and doesn't run when things get hard. She met his eyes. This is hard, Jin-Woo. This is the hardest thing you'll probably ever face. So what are you going to do? Are you going to run, or are you going to show up? Jin-Woo looked at his son, sleeping peacefully against his mother's shoulder, completely unaware that his entire future hung in the balance. Looked at Kemi, exhausted and scared but still standing, still fighting, still believing that maybe, possibly, Jin-Woo could become the man she needed him to be. And he made his choice. I'm going to show up, he said quietly, even if it means losing everything else. Kemi nodded slowly. Then we'd better figure out a plan, because Soo-min's deadline is in less than 12 hours and we need to be ready. They had 7 hours left when Attorney Cho returned with a man Kemi had never seen before. He was older, maybe 70, with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. This is Attorney Lim, Cho said. He drafted your father-in-law's will, including the codicil, and he has something you both need to hear. Attorney Lim set his briefcase on the coffee table and pulled out a folder. Your father, he said to Jin-Woo, was many things, brilliant, ruthless, but above all he was prepared. He knew Director Choi was corrupt. He knew your mother turned a blind eye to financial irregularities. He knew your sister was learning all the wrong lessons about power. Then why didn't he stop them? Jin-Woo demanded. Because he was dying brain cancer. He had 6 months to live when he added the codicil, and he spent those 6 months building a case. Attorney Lim opened the folder. Everything is here. Wire transfers, emails, recorded phone calls. Your father documented every crime, every bribe, every fraudulent transaction, and he left it all to you, Jin-Woo, with very specific instructions. Kemi leaned forward, Ayodele still sleeping against her chest. What instructions? That you would know what to do when the time came, that you would choose justice over loyalty, that you would be better than he was. Attorney Lim pulled out a sealed envelope. He also left this, for Kemi specifically. Kemi's hands shook as she took the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper in handwriting. she recognized from the few times she'd met Jin-Woo's father before he died. "Dear Kemi, if you're reading this, my son has failed you. I'm sorry. I raised him to be strong, but I forgot to teach him to be kind. I raised him to win, but I forgot to teach him what was worth winning. You will be tempted to run, to take your child and disappear. Don't. Stand your ground. Make him earn his place in your life. Make him become the man I should have taught him to be. The documents Attorney Lim gave you are my insurance policy and my apology. Use them wisely. Protect my grandson. And if my son proves worthy, give him the chance I never gave myself, to be better than his father. With regret and hope. Kang Th-wan. Kemi's vision blurred. She'd met Jin-Woo's father exactly 3 times. Once at their engagement party where he'd been polite but distant. Once at their wedding where he'd given a speech about duty and legacy. And once, 2 weeks before he died, when she'd visited him in the hospital alone. She thought he didn't remember that visit. Thought the morphine had stolen his memories of their conversation about family and forgiveness and second chances. Apparently, she'd been wrong. He knew, she whispered. About the baby, he knew before he died. Jin-Woo stared at her. What? I went to see your father 2 weeks before he passed. I just found out I was pregnant. I was scared and alone and I didn't know what to do, so I went to the hospital and I told him. I begged him to help me reach you, to make you listen. He said he couldn't force you to be a better man than he'd been, but he could give me the tools to protect myself and our child if you failed. Kemi touched the letter with trembling fingers. I thought he was delirious. I thought he didn't understand, but he understood everything. Attorney Lim nodded. He called me that night, had me draft the codicil, gather all the evidence and create a trust fund in Ayodele's name, though he didn't know the child's name yet, of course. $2 million, accessible only through Kemi, untouchable by the Kang family. He wanted to make sure his grandson would be cared for no matter what happened. Jin-Woo sat down hard, his face ashen. My father left money for my son, a son he never met, a son I didn't know existed. He had more faith in your child than he had in you, Attorney Lim said bluntly. The question is whether that faith was misplaced. Before Jin-Woo could respond, his phone rang. Unknown number, again. He answered on speaker. Time's running out, Jin-Woo. Soo-min's voice filled the room. Have you made your decision? I have. Jin-Woo looked at Kemi, at Ayodele, at the documents spread across the table. I choose them. I choose my son. And I choose to stop protecting people who don't deserve it. Soo-min laughed, sharp and brittle. Then you've chosen prison for your family. I hope it was worth it. It was, and Soo-min, you should know that everything you think you have on my family, my father already documented. Everything you're threatening me with, he recorded, filed and left with his attorney. You have no leverage, you never did. The silence on the other end was deafening. You're bluffing, Soo-min finally said, but her voice wavered. Attorney Lim, Jin-Woo said calmly, would you like to tell Ms. Park about the evidence package you're delivering to the FSS in approximately 30 minutes? It would be my pleasure. Attorney Lim's voice was ice. Ms. Park, your involvement in the fraud scheme is comprehensively documented. Wire transfers in your name, emails from your account, phone calls you believed were private. You have 2 choices, turn yourself in and cooperate with the investigation, or wait for the FSS to arrest you. Either way, your leverage just evaporated. The sound that came through the phone was somewhere between a sob and a scream. Then the line went dead. Jin-Woo set down his phone with shaking hands. Is it really over? Not quite, Attorney Cho said. Director Choi, your mother, your sister, they'll all face charges. The company will take a massive hit, your family will hate you, and rebuilding trust with Kemi and Ayodele will take years, not days. But yes, the immediate threat is over. Kemi felt like she could breathe for the first time in months. The weight pressing on her chest, the fear that had followed her since she'd discovered her pregnancy, the terror that they'd take Ayodele from her, it all lifted just a fraction. But it wasn't gone, not completely. I need to know something, she said, looking at Jin-Woo. When you chose us over Soo-min, over your family, was it because you wanted to or because you had to? Jin-Woo met her eyes. Both. I wanted to because it was the right thing to do. I had to because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. Does that make sense? Yeah, Kemi said softly. It does. Ayodele woke up then, his face scrunching as he prepared to cry. Kemi automatically started the swaying motion, the gentle bounce that usually calmed him, but this time it didn't work. He ramped up to a full wail. He's probably hungry again, Kemi said tiredly, or needs a diaper change, or both. Welcome to parenthood. Can I try? Jin-Woo's voice was hesitant. To hold him, I mean, just for a minute. Kemi hesitated. Every instinct screamed at her to say no, to protect Ayodele from potential hurt, to keep him close where she knew he was safe. But she told Jin-Woo she'd give him a chance, and a chance meant actually letting him try. Okay, she said, but support his head, and don't panic if he cries harder. Barbies can sense fear. She transferred Ayodele into Jin-Woo's arms, watching his face transform as he held his son for the first time. Jin-Woo looked terrified and awed and completely overwhelmed. Ayodele stopped crying, just stopped mid-wail and stared up at Jin-Woo with wide, curious eyes. Hi, Jin-Woo whispered. Hi Ayodele, I'm your father. I'm sorry I wasn't here before. I'm sorry I missed so much, but I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere, I promise. Ayodele made a small sound, something between a coo and a gurgle, and his tiny hand wrapped around Jin-Woo's finger. Jin-Woo's eyes filled with tears. He's so small, he said, voice breaking. How is he so small? He was even smaller when he was born. Kemi moved closer, unable to help herself. 3.2 kilograms, 50 centimeters long. He came out screaming and hasn't really stopped since. What's his favorite thing? Being held, being talked to. He loves when I sing to him in Igbo. I don't think he understands the words yet, but he likes the rhythm. And he hates having his diaper changed. Absolutely hates it, screams like we're torturing him. Jin-Woo laughed, wet and rough. What else? Tell me everything. So Kemi did. She told him about the way Ayodele's face lit up when he heard her voice, about the tiny dimple in his left cheek that only showed when he smiled, about how he slept best when he was being held, which meant Kemi hadn't slept more than 2 hours at a stretch in 3 months, about the way he studied faces, like he was trying to memorize everyone he met. And Jin-Woo listened to every word like she was describing miracles. Attorney Lim and Attorney Cho quietly gathered their things and left, giving them privacy. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows, painting everything gold. I don't forgive you yet, Kemi said eventually. I want you to know that this doesn't fix everything. You hurt me, you abandoned me, and it's going to take a long time before I can trust you again. I know, Jin-Woo said, still looking at Ayodele. I don't expect forgiveness, I just want the chance to earn it. Then you need to understand something. Being a father isn't about the big moments. It's not about dramatic gestures or grand speeches. It's about showing up at 3 a.m. when he won't stop crying. It's about changing diapers and doing laundry and being there for every boring, exhausting, beautiful moment. Can you do that? I don't know, Jin-Woo admitted, but I want to try. Ayodele started fussing again, his face scrunching up. Jin-Woo looked panicked. What do I do? Give him to me, he needs to eat. Kemi took Ayodele back, settling into the nursing position she'd perfected over 3 months of practice. But you can sit with us if you want. Jin-Woo sat. They didn't touch, didn't speak, just existed in the same space while Ayodele ate and the sun set outside the window, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't even close to okay. But it was a start. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. 6 months later, Jin-Woo knocked on the door of Kemi's apartment, the new one he'd helped her find in a neighborhood with good schools and parks, the one that was hers alone, paid for by the trust fund his father had left for Ayodele. She answered with Ayodele on her hip. At 9 months old he'd grown into his features, all chubby cheeks and bright eyes and that same dimple Kemi had described. He saw Jin-Woo and immediately reached out, making grabby hands and babbling something that sounded vaguely like Dada. Jin-Woo's heart clenched. He'd been coming 3 times a week for supervised visits that had gradually become unsupervised as he proved himself capable. He'd taken parenting classes, started therapy, ended things with everyone from his old life who couldn't accept that he had a son, a mixed son, a son he was damn proud of. Director Choi was in prison. His sister had fled to Singapore to avoid prosecution. His mother was under house arrest awaiting trial. Kang Global Industries had been restructured, with Jin-Woo stepping down as CEO to focus on being a father. He'd lost almost everything, and gained the only things that mattered. He's been asking for you, Kemi said, letting him in. Well, not asking exactly, but he definitely notices when you're not here. Yeah, Jin-Woo took Ayodele, who immediately started playing with his face, patting his cheeks and giggling. I notice when I'm not here too. Kemi watched them with an expression Jin-Woo couldn't quite read. We need to talk. His stomach dropped. Okay. She led him to the living room, where Ayodele's toys were scattered across the floor in cheerful chaos. A children's book lay open on the couch. A bottle sat on the coffee table. It looked like a home, a real home's. I've been thinking, Kemi started, then stopped. Started again. These past 6 months watching you with Ayodele, seeing how hard you've worked to be a good father. Kemi, if this is you telling me the visits need to stop. It's not, she took a breath. It's me telling you that maybe, possibly, I'm ready for you to stay. Jin-Woo froze. Stay. Not all the time, not immediately, but maybe a few nights a week. Maybe we try being a family, a real family, not because we have to, but because we want to. Are you serious? I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm setting myself up to get hurt again, but Jin-Woo, you've shown up. Every single time you've shown up, and I think, her voice cracked, I think maybe we deserve a second chance, both of us. Ayodele chose that moment to grab Jin-Woo's nose and laugh, delighted with himself. What do you think, buddy? Jin-Woo whispered to his son. Should I stay? Ayodele babbled something incomprehensible and enthusiastic. I think that's a yes, Kemi said, and she was smiling now, really smiling, the way she used to before everything went wrong. Jin-Woo looked at her, at their son, at the life they were slowly, carefully building together. Then I'm staying, he said, for as long as you'll have me. And this time when Kemi reached out and took his hand, Jin-Woo held on tight and didn't let go. Because some things, once you nearly lose them, you learn to cherish. And some people, once you hurt them, you spend the rest of your life making sure they know they were always worth fighting for. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us about your own second chances. Have you ever had to choose between what's easy and what's right? Share your story below. We read every single one. And if you want more stories about love, redemption, and the messy, beautiful reality of being human, tap that like button and turn on notifications. We've got more coming that'll keep you up all night. Thanks for staying with us until the end. Your time matters and we're honored you spent it here. Now go hug someone you love. Life's too short for anything less.